Before we start this podcast, I want to definitely remind you of a sponsor for Fresh of the Word, 20 by 20 Apparel. Founded in 2015, 20 by 20 Apparel brings original tributes to pro wrestling's classic arenas, moments, and events. They look to spotlight the bloopers, bleeps, and body slams along with the biggest, smallest, strangest, and strongest. In the world of wrestling where there's hundreds of shirts, promotions, flyers, social media accounts, and ads, don't get lost in the sea of parody shirts and display fonts. They can provide professional graphic design services at a reasonable price. 20 by 20 also hand screen prints all the tees in-house. So if you'd like to discuss a possible run of tees, posters, koozies, foam fingers, or even Zubaz, then drop them a line at 20by20apparel.com. That's the number 20x, the number 20apparel.com. And also check out their enamel pin line. It's super cool.
Fresh is the word.
Welcome to the Fresh of the Word podcast. I'm your host, Kelly K. Fresh Frazier, and we got another episode for you this week. Double the flavor, double the freshness. The guest for this episode is the global DJ, cultural ambassador, foodie, and pop culture preserver and rocksteady crew member, Philly's own Skeme Richards. And you can listen and read all about his experiences online on his Nostalgia King website at nostalgiaking.com. And believe me, that name Nostalgia King fits him. He recently dropped a new vinyl, no digital, a 7-inch, for the joint Rock Latin Steady, the B-side of Bimbo to the Beat, via the RBM Boots record label, but it sold out really quickly, so you're going to have to look for it, man. There might be a record store that might have a copy. Be on the lookout for that. During our conversation, we talked about all of the experiences traveling the world as a DJ and all the types of relationships he was able to build and form all over the world during those years. We also talked about, what it means to be a DJ during a pandemic and some advice about what other DJs can do during this time when the whole event industry is on lockdown. Now, we also take a dive into his past and talk about first becoming a DJ as a kid. He was like 12 years old, and eventually joining the legendary Rocksteady crew. We talk about, comic books, 45s. He's like a nerd in that way, man. We just, me and him bonded that way, man. He's a cool brother. Be sure to check out his own streaming platform where he plays some stuff over on nerve.fm/Skeme Richards. And, before we get into this interview with Skeme, this is the second episode this week because took a little time off, and I have a lot of interviews in the can, so I'm trying to get them out in a timely manner. It's, like I said, man, we're just trying to get through this pandemic. What's cool about this episode is that, as DJs, there's all sorts of different kinds of DJs, electronic music, hip hop, whatever. You have, different levels, different sizes of events that DJs do. And, everybody's trying to figure out what they're comfortable with, what they can do, what the production standards are going to be. It's definitely a great time to experiment, set things up for when the world opens up more. And also, it's also a time to sort of like push the reset button on yourself, your community, your industry, to sort of rethink things, your self-care, your health, the toxicity of your environment. Is there, how are people of color being represented in your community? How many women are being represented in the DJ community that you're in? Is there any abuse going on? Who are those people? Is how are you using your time? How are, cause a lot of DJs, you know, tour too much. Sometimes they wear themselves out. So this is definitely a time to assess all those things, because not everything is worth the money, and you may have to move some things around, renegotiate, turn things down or whatnot. But this is a good time to reassess those things, try new things out, work on projects, experiment with projects, and just but definitely just be yourself and be honest with yourself. And I think that's what I got a lot out of talking with Skeme. He's always been someone who just kind of stick to his guns. He carved out his own little niche, and that's where he is. So, and he's been doing it for a long time, and I respect that. And it's definitely gonna. He's going to come out the other end of this pandemic, being able to continue that. So I think there's going to be a lot to learn, listening to this episode, and it's a long talk, but it's a cool talk, so please bear through it, So yeah, that's about it. It's before after we get into a word from our sponsor, I'll let you listen to my conversation with Skeme Richards. All right, welcome back to the Fresh is the Word podcast. And like always, we have the freshest of guests for you. The guest for this episode is Skeme Richards. You might have remembered that a previous guest, J-Zone, recommended him to come on the show, and we got him. He's from Philly. He's a DJ, a collector, the nostalgia king, the purveyor of rare gems, heavy funk 45 slinger. He's a burger connoisseur, a record label promoter, and just an all-around preserver of culture. How you doing?
Yo, what's up, man? What's up? Happy to be here. How's everything on your end?
It's been cool, man. It's it's pandemic shit.
Yeah, maintaining, bobbing and weaving, getting around it,
Right. So, yeah, you got a new 7-inch that just came out.
Yeah.
Now recently on the RBM Boots label, it's called Rock Lead and Steady. Talk about that.
Yeah. So basically, I did an edit 45 with the label a couple months back of just like some rare edits, some rare records that like no one knows about. Actually, the first one was actually like ungoogleable. I just happened to come across this record from the owner of Brewery Town Beats. He hooked me up with it, and it's like an ill funk 45, the ill break in it, and I was like, oh, I need to edit this and really like introduce this, because that's what digging is for. Digging and discovering is like, let me bring something that no one's ever heard to the game.
Yeah, because there's a ton of releases out there that were like just local releases.
Right.
Way back in the day, before they ever thought of a lot of the stuff we thought about now, in regards to where music can be, distributed to and everything. They were just doing it to do it, They put out these locally pressed 45s. So there's all of those just around the world that exist.
Exactly. So I did that one, and then this next one I did was some crazy rare, like, Latin funk with the heavy, like, b-boy drum break in it, but it's most people don't even know about it. I would say 99% of the diggers don't know about this record. So, traveling and being able to travel and find these records was like, this is another one that the world needs to hear. So it's just a dope edit, and making it happen.
Right.
That's what we're supposed to do. As diggers, that's what we do.
Yeah. See, for me, like, I've, a nice little record collection, a lot of different things. But like the one thing that like really it's almost like you got to be obsessed with it is when you get into that, like, to those rare 45s, like the original samples. And I'm still to this day like, yo, how do people find this shit without even like knowing, like,
right,
knowing from the producer or knowing about having any sort of leads? And even with that record that you found, like what do you look for when you're out there to, that'd be like, okay, this might be something that has something on it, or like you're just guessing, or what's the plan of attack?
Especially like there's two different things. Like if you're in America, you're here in the States, you're looking for something that has like an oddball label, like that you've never heard of. Of course, so you're going to drop the needle down because you're like, I've never heard of this band, I've never seen this label before. So that's one side. But when I'm in like Asia, if I'm in Korea, if I'm in like the covers don't look funky. It's just like a band or a singer. And they all look like wedding singers or something on the cover.
Right.
So it's trial and error. It's trial and error. It's buying a stack of stuff and bringing it home and being like, oh man, all this sucks. And then that one gem, you're like, oh, this made it worth carrying that whole big bag of records home. So it's, a lot of it's just trial and error.
What's some of your favorite places to dig around the world?
Well, close to the States, I would have to say Canada, Toronto, which is Cosmos Records. Always like just.
Oh yeah, Cosmo! I love them. Yeah, I've been there, man. I found like the funny thing is, I found like regular ass shit that for some reason I can't find.
Yeah.
Like because they were in weird times. Like here's the story. Remember the rock band Tesla?
Yes.
Like their biggest album, like back when. Like whenever, I forgot the name of it. I have it like right over. Actually, I'm looking at it right now. It's this one.
Word. Yeah.
The Great Radio Controversy.
Right.
For some reason, this record's so hard to find because it was during those years where they were doing when it converted more from like records to tapes and CDs. So record production was kind of down on records. Like, I never seen this, and I just happened to be in Cosmos, and they had it, and I'm like, oh, snap, I've been looking for this,
Yeah. See, that's the thing. A lot of stuff, came out, and then, people came in, and they bought all of the copies and left. Like, the Japanese came over, the British came over, and they just left. So it's hard to find certain things local, but, like, Cosmos, Universe Sounds in Japan, that's another one, Superfly in Paris, Red Light Records in Amsterdam. Like, there's just so many like good record shops that like have like meat, like the meat and potatoes of stuff.
Right, like at Cosmos, I also saw like they had a bunch of like Japanese like hip hop stuff, and it was just like random things. Like there's this one like Japanese singer that kind of did hip hop stuff, but then it had like a Kenny Dope remix on it.
Yeah,
and I'm like, what's this, dog? Yeah, and it was fresh.
There's a female singer back in the mid '90s from Japan, and she had a couple 12 inches out. And it's funny, nobody in America really knows about this record, but there's one. She has one 12-inch that Evil D from Beat Miners did a remix on.
Okay,
and then there's another 12-inch that Marley did the remixes on. And it's so crazy. She was signed to like Sony Japan or some label on Sony.
Yeah,
but it was like 90s hip hop and R&B. But it had like remixes by Beat Miners and then the other 12.
What's her name? Do you remember?
I got to get it for you. I got to find out the name for you. But I got the 12 inches. But they're crazy. I'll send them to you.
Yeah, send me that shit. Yeah, but yeah, dude. Like it's just weird. Like we're it's funny though. Like even today, like vinyl kind of went through this whole like other like renaissance to where we're no, for the most part, like, the dollar bins are not the dollar bins we used to, man. Like, I miss those. But then, like, you're seeing all this stuff that, like, because of the internet and because of the other thing, we're able to sort of, get things that maybe we didn't get things before. Maybe a little bit more easier, but there's, like, a more open sort of thing going on that you're like, oh shit, like we're getting all this stuff, and then people can kind of do what I like now is like people are doing like the low press vinyl, making it like just a special thing for like their fans, and they make it look good too, they don't just like back in the day a lot of vinyl might look like hip hop vinyl especially be like, all right, that's cool, but but what's your thoughts about like just like putting out vinyl these days,
Well, for me as a DJ and traveling, I play 99% vinyl. That's what I do. So, like, it works for me. I'm happy. Like, you get all of the, like, new, like, funk, soul, jazz, hip-hop bands. Like, it's so much of it coming out right now, which makes my job so much easier. So it's dope. It's really dope. I mean, there's a lot of junk that comes out as well, like because it's the ease of being able to press up records now is so Like anyone can do
I've
it.
been seeing reissues of stuff that I'm like, yo, why are you reissuing it?
Yeah, for me, so that's a whole nother that's a whole nother conversation. Like for me, when I look at reissues, I'm like, do we really need this reissue? It got burned out in the '90s.
Right.
We've heard a million times on Serato, like right, like there's so much other stuff. Why are we go reissue or bootleg a B side or an album cut?
Yeah.
You know, why are you reissuing or bootlegging the same one, like the top 50 of the '90s? Like to me, that's whack.
Right.
You know, it's a cash grab. It's a cash grab.
Yeah.
People are like, oh yeah, it's so and so on 45. Like, okay, we don't play it on 12-inch, so who cares?
No, the funniest reissues I ever saw was Herb Alpert like reissued his whole discography.
Yeah.
And I was like, he must have a loyal fan base that will buy all of that stuff.
Well,
because
but you know, that's the record labels, man. The labels are like, oh, vinyl's fashionable again. Okay, how can we capitalize on this? But what they fail to realize is you're clogging up the pressing plants.
yeah.
Clogging up the pressing plants, and that those records, his records are so readily available in any secondhand shop.
Right. And I was like, they're doing what?
Yeah, it's like just go back in and buy up all your inventory from record stores and clean them up, and then, you know, open up a store yourself if you want to do that. It sucks. It really sucks.
You know, the thing with like technology and the internet is that like in like a website like Discogs and stuff is that you can even, you know, you can find stuff online that maybe you would never see digging, but then at the same time when you dig, you're gonna see stuff that you never seen like online. So you know, what's your thoughts about that balance?
So for me, see, I'm on the left side of things because I travel. So I'm seeing stuff all over the place where it's like I would never see certain things home because it may be regional to Japan or to Korea.
Yeah.
But then there's American records where I'm like, yo, I've never seen this anywhere in America. But then I go to another country, I'm like, oh, you guys got 2 copies of this. You know, I've learned patience. Like it's so easy to get things online now.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's the value of appreciating things is not the same. It's the ease of like, I got it. Like, you know, like my patience level has really slowed down to the point where I can wait. If I really want a record bad enough, I can find it. I can make a million phone calls and get a record bad enough. But the feeling of finding it when you're out digging, it's like, yeah. And I think that patience came back for me going back and like starting to collect comic books again. I mean, I never really stopped, but like going out and hitting the comic shops and finding like back issues from 1977 of rare gems and things that I'm like, oh, I can go on eBay and get this. But like going into a physical shop,
yeah, and
looking in the bins and being like, oh man, I've been looking for that. You know, it's a different feeling. So everything is there, but it's just like patience. There's no fun in just ordering it. You know,
right?
It's like the fun is the discovery and being out.
I do have a little bit of fun being on Discogs, and if there's a record that I'm searching for, I'll go on that store and look through everything to see if there's anything else that I want. Well, I kind of have fun with that.
Yeah, but that's time consuming.
It is. Like I'm just sitting here on my, because I'm glad I have that. You know, I'm on the app, Discogs app, and I'm just like boom. I try to like, you know, filter it down to like what I'm actually kind of looking for, but then sometimes you'll get a store that has like 100 things, you know, it's just like a regular person. And I'd be like, all right, cool. And they might have a couple things that I want, you know, at a decent price. And I like that, you know.
See, like the thing about like going into a physical shop, it's that social interaction, you know.
That too, yeah.
Like you talk to the owner and he's like recommending records for you or recommending certain things. Like I miss that. And during the pandemic, that's like really a missing thing right now, you know.
Yeah.
So
recently, like I just went out, like I've just been in my apartment, you know, boom, during this. I finally went out, like after they started opening some things up here in Michigan, I went to the record store for the first time, and I literally looked through the whole place, you know, and it was so relaxing, and I haven't had that in such a long time, and I was just like, this is cool, and I found just like weird little shit, like local Michigan bands and stuff like that, you know, and it was such a fun experience, you know.
Yeah, and that's the thing, man. It's just like just being out and you know, just being able to go dig and just talk to people and be in bins and like step out of your house and get some fresh air for a change. You know, like we need that. Like I feel like we're all getting claustrophobic in the house right now.
Yeah.
You know, even though we may be busy, because I'm constantly like working on projects and stuff like that.
Same.
But stepping outside and like getting some fresh air and walking into a shop, it just feels so good.
Right. I feel you. So you've been DJing since '81. You say
81.
like, man, it's been a long time. It's gonna be 40 years next year. You know, like, how did you first get into DJing?
It was one of those things where I had just moved to the new neighborhood. We moved here in '80, and the school kids that I was going to school with, their older brothers had turntables. So I'm hanging out with them and then going to their houses after school, and they're sneaking to use their brother's turntables after school. So it was just one of those things that just fell into play.
Yeah.
I had already been seeing DJs block parties. Like my older cousin was DJing, had records, the whole nine. But it was that moment of hanging with kids that were 11 years old, like myself, and that's how I got into it. It was just like a natural thing.
Yeah.
It was riding bikes, DJing.
So you got to see all like the come up of all the classic DJs in Philly.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I was a young guy, but I was very observant, and even still to this day, like I'm a historian. I'm observant with things. I'm always analyzing and dissecting things. So yeah, I seen a lot of stuff happen there, a lot.
What was some of the craziest things that just as a kid that you saw that just blew your mind?
I would have to say, DJ wise, you mean?
Yeah, DJ wise, or just watching a DJ, and
just one of the craziest things is seeing a kid my age lose a DJ battle and lose his records. Because back then we used to battle for crates of records.
Oh yeah, okay.
So that's got to be because just think about this: you saved your lunch money, you saved your Christmas money, you bought records, and you battled. And you lost all your records. And seeing someone take your crate of records home, even if it was 5 records, someone taking your crate of records home, that's probably the craziest thing. Besides seeing DJs set up with monster speakers and stuff like that, that's amazing and exciting. But seeing people lose their crates of records,
wow.
Or battling for equipment, sound for sound, and losing your whole sound system.
Wow, that's
the craziest.
That's crazy. So like Philly's like one of those cities that's always been synonymous with soul and hip hop, and so many great DJs came from there. Like, who are the people that you looked up to coming up during that time? What was just like the hip hop scene and everything? How was that, growing up? So,
Philly is an hour and a half away from New York. So, Philly is considered the second city of hip-hop. A lot of what was going on in New York was going on in Philly. We were already doing graffiti. The city was bombed. We already had sound systems in the park. We already had DJs. The MC influence definitely came from New York. We had dancers. Like, they had B-boys. We had, what we call steppers, which was a similar thing to breaking.
Yeah.
And just the whole thing that was just going on, it was just culture happening at the same time. So it was pretty much like, kung fu flicks Saturday afternoon, blaxploitation flicks. It was I'm seeing as a kid the whole genesis and building of what was going on culturally and hip hop wise. It was just black culture. It was just black culture, like kung fu flicks, blaxploitation, DJs in the park on Saturdays and block parties, graffiti. Seeing all this stuff just really made that impression on me as a kid, as it would any kid. Like, you riding your bike and you're reading tags on the wall and you're, so life was just kid shit. You were just growing up and it was just kid shit.
What was Philly like for you as a kid? Just like Philly in general.
Philly in general, it was fun. It was definitely fun. It was definitely buck wild at certain times, and you can be in the wrong neighborhood as a kid, like walking home, get robbed, by older kids or whatever. But like for the most part, it was Philly culturally and artistically. There's the influence of the culture and music and art and everything. I've seen that since day one as a kid, and that's what made me who I am today. That influence of art and culture of Philly. It's the reason why we're the second city of hip hop. It's the reason why when it comes to disco, Philadelphia International Records, the sound of Philadelphia, we're instrumental for so much that happened in the world in music and culture. We're so important for that. So,
when did you first have that like sort of holy shit moment that like I want to be around this for the rest of my life? I want to do this.
Honestly, since day one. Since day one. But the thing is, when I first started DJing and even into my teen years and my adult years, I never wanted to be a professional DJ or producer or whatever. I never wanted, because music and life, like that's what I do. So if I worked a day job, I would always still come home and DJ.
Yeah.
I would always come home and produce or make beats. Like, it's just what I did. So I never really wanted to be a professional at this. I never wanted it to be my 9 to 5, or actually it's not even 9 to 5. It's like sun up to sundown and all around, but the oh shit moment came at a point where I was working at BMW and still traveling and DJing and, all the time. And then one day I just woke up and I was like, oh shit, like, how am I going to be able to go on tour and I'm holding down this day job?
Right.
And that came at a point where I had to make a decision. What's going to happen? And luckily the company I worked for had just got bought out by another company because it used to be family owned company. So my manager would just basically be like, oh, you can do it. Oh, you're going to London Saturday, Friday. Oh yeah, sure. Go ahead. I'll see you on Monday. Like, yeah. He knew he was all about it. But when the corporate company came in and bought it, he basically told me, I can't really let you just fly around the world whenever you want to fly around the world,
Right.
So that was the defining point where I either had to, be at work or be at work,
Right.
So I was like, he was like, I can lay you off, and I was like, you know what? Lay me off, because I had already had like 3-week tour in Japan all scheduled.
Yeah.
So it came at the right point, and that was the defining moment where it was like, okay, boom, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life.
How long ago was that?
This was 2011.
Okay, all right. How have you been able to like keep things going since then? And how did you keep your like just your even before that, how did you keep your like DJ career going? And then what was the change after that?
So all right, so when I would say when I really, really started getting on and like traveling the world was 2003, 2004, when I really started just being like, okay, I'm all over the place now. And, I worked a day job since I got out of high school. A day job is what got me a house. A day job is what got me a car. Like, so I'm used to working.
Yeah.
So me working, and then 2004, 2003, 2004, being like, okay, Thursday, I'm flying to another city. If it's America, I'm flying on Friday. If it's Europe, I'm flying on Thursday. But I had that discipline to know, like, all right, I'm back on Monday. Like, I would catch the flight from London on Sunday evening, and then I'm home Monday. And then,
don't wild out too much so you can't work all week.
Yeah, I'm going to work. But the thing was, I loved making all that corporate money, and I loved making all that DJ money.
Yeah.
So it was all good. I had no problem. Like, being up all day and then rocking parties all night. Yeah, I'm built for that lifestyle.
How did you first sort of, get on to where you were getting booked for these, in other cities, other countries? So
when I started DJing for Rocksteady Crew, because I'm a member of Rocksteady Crew.
Yeah.
I used to travel with like Crazy Legs and those guys, and like we would just be in different cities, and I'd be DJing and rocking jams. Like I think the first time I really started getting it in, it was New York. It was Rocksteady Anniversary, and cats just took notice, and they was like, "Oh, we need you need to bring you here. We need to bring you to this city. We need to bring you to London, you know. And it was the trickle effect of like somebody seeing me in one city or country, and then somebody else seeing me and be like, I need you to come over here. So it's just right place, right time, every time.
Oh, nice, nice. When was sort of like, what was sort of like the holy shit moment though that you're like, this could be something that I could do for the rest of my life that would, you know, eventually lead to that decision you got to make, you know?
I think it was that first time I stepped foot in London. I went international for the first time, and I think it was like that early 2000s. I stepped foot in London, and I was like, oh shit, yeah, I could do this. I'm built for this lifestyle. I'm getting passport stamps. Oh yeah, you know. So I think that was the moment, but it was still one of those things. Whereas I still love all this corporate money over here, you know, and I love this DJ money, and I can buy anything I want. I can pay all my bills. I can stack money at the same time. I can buy expensive records at the same time, and not worry about breaking the bank. It was amazing.
Yeah, a lot of people don't have like sort of that luxury.
And that's the thing. Why it was hard to be like, oh, do I want to leave this corporate lifestyle? Because it was so much money over there that it was just, I could do whatever. But it was also that money, that corporate money, that made it so that I could do my DJ lifestyle.
Yeah, you're doing it in service. Yeah.
Exactly. And I feel like a lot of people don't understand that balance of, oh, I want to be an artist. I'm never trying to work a day job. Well, guess what? Your day job is what pays to buy you supplies to do your art.
Right, right.
If
you're lucky enough where your art, you know, does it for you,
right.
Cool. But there's a lot of people out there, you know, that still need to hold on a day job to pay for that stuff, you know?
Exactly. And that's the thing. I don't think people really understand that aspect right there where, like, yo, that corporate job helps you to buy the things you need to get your hustle on. So if you need to buy a plane ticket to go to a city to perform, you know, like you can afford to fund your own travels and tours to go places. Even if it's just to go to another city to go digging, your corporate job will pay for you to take a flight to go to the West Coast to go dig.
Right.
You know, like there's no pride in having a day job to make money. You know, people like don't mess up the pride thing. You know, like people are too prideful to work a day job. Yo, work a day job. Because right about now, the amount of DJs that are out of work.
Woo! Yeah, it's sad. You know, it's sad right now.
If you got to go work at UPS, you got to go work at UPS.
Right. What sort of, when you're traveling, you know, what sort of like your method of operation? Like, you know, how do you keep your mental health cool? How do you stay healthy? How do you enjoy the places that you're at?
Well, I enjoy the places because I make sure, first and foremost, I'm staying for a couple days so I can soak it all in. You know, and what's keeping me mentally healthy is taking in the scenery and the sights around me. Like, I'm going to places that most people would pay to go on vacation to, you know, and other people would never go there. So it's that feeling of knowing like I'm getting flown to basically go on vacation all the time. That's a good feeling. So that makes me feel young all the time.
Yeah.
You know, health-wise, food-wise, like I make sure I eat good wherever I go. You know, I'm not a spring chicken anymore. Like I can still eat like shit. You know, I can still eat like shit, but like I eat good when I go places. You know, and so that's keeping me good. And I make sure I get enough sleep. I don't like some people will just run and run and run. I make sure I get enough sleep. You know, and I enjoy the countries that I'm in because that feeling of that adrenaline rush of being in another country and seeing culture. That'll keep you feeling young forever.
What is it about you as you're this purveyor of nostalgia? You drop 45s, you find the rare stuff, you go digging, and this is how you DJ. You know, what is it about that you feel like has been the reason why you continually have a career doing this? Well,
one, because it's honesty. Like, there's a lot of people that have images, and they're like, it's like their social media or their artist imagery, but like that's not necessarily them.
Yeah.
You know, for me, I am who I am. You know, everything, the nostalgia, that's just who I am. Like I've always been that since day one. I still do the same things that I did as a kid that I do as an adult. I still go ride my BMX on the weekends, right? Like as a kid, if I would go do a party or something and come home, I had to be home by 11 o'clock. I would come home. Oh, what's on TV? A Godzilla film. So I'm going to watch this Godzilla film. If I come home now from a party at 2 a.m., I'm still doing the same things. I'm throwing on a Godzilla film. I'm watching a Kung Fu flick. I'm eating a leftover cheesesteak or pizza, and I'm going to sit down and I'm going to watch it, and I'll go to sleep like 4 o'clock. Like, my lifestyle has never changed. I'm still comic shopping. I'm still record shopping. I'm still doing all the things that I did as a kid. So what you see is what you see. Like, that's me since day one. So, like, that's why I can keep that, because it keeps me feeling young. And the minute you stop feeling young, is your career is over.
Right.
When,
you're doing all this traveling, different cities, how do you, maintain relationships with people in all those different cities, and what type of people do you like to connect with? What is it about the people that you want to know, like what are the types of people you want in your circles in each of these cities?
Well, all right, so I build relationships because unlike other artists, successful artists, I don't have management and I don't have a booking agent. All my whole career is based off of relationships.
Yeah.
And building those relationships. I don't have a guy to go in and talk for me and be like, oh, Skeme wants $3,000 to play your party. He's never met you, but, the connect comes from the manager and the booking. Like, I've built relationships with people, and to the point where they look at me as like, oh, man, Skeme's a good dude. He wants to come out here and play. We know he's a very honorable person. Let's rock with him. And it's because of that they'll always bring me out, because we have relationships. It's just not a money grab.
Yeah.
It's about these relationships with people.
Yeah. What is it about, like, just your overall, personality that, kind of keeps you open to being able to do that for yourself? There's a lot of people that I don't know if they can even just do that for themselves, whether it's, lack of self-worth or just being lazy or whatever. What is it about you that like lets you be able to be that person for yourself to take care of everything?
Because, at the end of the day, no one can ever say they made me, right? No one could ever say they broke me. It's like, I did it all myself. Here and there, I'll have help where somebody's like, oh, I have a connect. Let me introduce you to so-and-so.
Word.
But for the most part, like, no one can ever say they made me. I've gotten around the world. I've gotten passport stamps, on my own, and that's important. Like, I've made myself. So at the end of the day, like, I'm the only person who could really end or ruin my career. So that knowledge of knowing, like, yo, I got to do right. Like, because you're only as good as your last gig.
Yeah.
So I try to make sure I'm always on point. Like, my OG that taught me to DJ, or really, like, schooled me on DJing, we didn't meet on DJ terms. Like, my MC used to dance for him and his MC, and I would just go to their crib, and they're performing or practicing, doing routines or whatever, and I'm just like looking around, and he's got comic books in the corner, and I'm like, oh man, dude's got all these OG vintage comic books.
Yeah.
So we got cool on the comic book thing.
Yeah. Right.
Right? And then he took me under his wing.
Yeah. I have this conversation with other friends of mine where a lot of my best friends, like in music, we bonded over something else, whether it was like rock music or pro wrestling or something.
Exactly.
Like we always talk about that shit. Like, we don't even talk about hip hop shit. So,
right, and that's the thing.
That's like important to have, is just like the human relationship that you would just have with your homies.
Human relationship, exactly, and that's what I'm saying. So all of the people that I keep around me, like friends around the world, we have interests outside of this music thing. Right. We either all love good food, good beer, art, books, culture. Like, we love other things. So, like, most of the people that I deal with around the world, we don't even really discuss music.
Right.
It's all these other things. Like, even in Japan, when I go to Japan, the reason why the Japanese love me, yeah, I'm a good DJ, I guess. I guess. But they're always like, yo, you know about our culture and everything more than our youth know about our culture. That's,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like I have other interests outside of DJing. most people who are like an artist or especially DJs, or it's like all you like is DJing. You know.
Yeah, and I get instantly bored with what they want to talk about. I'm like,
Right.
I don't want to talk about needles.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. I don't want to talk about needles. I don't. It's So I'm like, yo, what else do you do? Like, what else? What else are you into?
Right.
If I ask a person like, yo, what books do you have in your collection, and you're a DJ, and all you tell me is like these hip hop books, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, but what other books do you have in your collection?
Right.
Like anything else? Do you have any graffiti books? Like, do you have any art books? Do you have any like whatever? Like, there's more to life than just one lane. You know?
Right. Where do you feel like this confidence came from with you? Just like at an early age, being able to just, I want to do this stuff, and be authentic.
I think that's honestly, it's in the water in Philly. Philly makes you like that. Like, it legit, like, if I was born anywhere else, I probably wouldn't be this person. Philly has made me who I am today. The attitude, the like, yo, let's do this. I'm down. Like, Philly has made me who I am, and then just knowing, like, my attitude is more of a graffiti writer's attitude than it is of a DJ's attitude. Like, writers are just like, yo, we going out bombing. We doing this. Like, you're going out,
Right.
My attitude is just like that. It's just like, yo, we're doing this. I'm about to be the king of the city. Like, that's what it is. So yeah, it's just something that's just always been there. Just the people who I hung around with, they were always like that. Like, the older cats that I hung around with, they were always just like, yo, I'm the best. Because if you're not going to know that you're the best and say you're the best, why do you think anybody else is going to say that you're the best?
Right. Like right now, like like we said earlier, DJs are just jobless. We're in a pandemic. We can't, here in the States, we can't leave the country because nobody wants us. And what are you doing, and what do you feel like DJs need to think about right now in regards to their livelihood?
One, stay mentally healthy, right? Stay physically healthy. That's more important than their livelihood of like DJing. Mental health, physical health is important. Like, I got DJ homies now that are like, yo, I haven't been as healthy and took walks to the park ever.
Right.
So those two things are so important. But as a DJ creatively, it's like, yo, now you have to reinvent yourself. It's only but so much going on IG Live and DJing live for free like you can do.
Right.
It's only but so much. Like, what are you getting out of that? Like, are you staying relevant? Not necessarily, really. Like, I mean, just post on your feed every once in a while. Like, you're not really staying relevant. So it's about being creative, reinventing yourself, and doing things that you wouldn't have done if you was doing parties every week or traveling.
Yeah.
Maybe it's time to do some new mixes. Right? Like, and not IG Live mixes. Maybe it's time to just do some new Mixcloud mixes that haven't been updated in 5 years.
Yeah.
Maybe it's time to actually put out some projects. Maybe go do a mix CD. I don't know. You can sell everything on Bandcamp now. Like, there's ways to make money.
Yeah. If you're creative enough, you can. Yeah.
Exactly. Go do something. Go collaborate with somebody who's outside of your field to do something new. Who, they might still be working, but you can collaborate with them because you're bringing something to the table. They're bringing something to the table, and do a product.
Yeah, like, there was, all these years that I was DJing here in Detroit, and I DJ'd at, like a lot of the hip-hop shows, here. For all, like, the MCs that you would know about, Fat
Right.
Cat, Guilty, blah, 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 But the thing that never got me to going farther than that was like my own mental health. Like, I can be honest with you now that since I've been going to therapy for the past 3 years, is that my own mental health didn't get me out of my little box that what I was in, and I was too scared to do a lot of things out there. So, and it still bugs me in my head, even today. But then we're at this time right now where everybody's kind of same level almost, and
Yep.
same place, so that sort of imposter syndrome isn't there as much, and you can be like, all right, we can try new things, maybe I'll try something new, and maybe do that little stupid idea that I had in my back for a
Yep.
mix or whatever.
See, when the pandemic hit, the first thing I said on Twitter was the level field is the playing field is leveled now.
Yeah.
That was the first thing I said when this hit and we were on quarantine. I was like, playing field's level. Have at it, because all the famous, everybody loves this DJ, that DJ. They're just like you right now, sitting in their damn house,
Right.
right, on Instagram every day, DJing for the same people they DJ for, playing the same exact sets that they play in the club. No new imagination, no nothing, right? Now's your time. You bring something new to the table. You play records that you couldn't play in the club, and show your fans that, like, yo, I play other records just more so than the same top 50 of every decade.
Right.
Right. And my tweet 3 days ago was, okay, we're 4 months in. If you didn't get healthy, whether mentally, physically, or if you didn't do a new project or create something new, you wasted the last 4 months. And there's a whole lot of people that wasted the last 4 months, because I'm like, you haven't done anything new. You haven't done any new projects. You haven't released anything. It's like you're still on social media talking about who's the greatest MCs out, and who's the, like, you're still like.
And then there's the DJs who were more in it for the party and the lifestyle. That lifestyle isn't around anymore.
Not
and
around. Not
so
around.
now, and then there's the people who are just getting outed for being shitty people, because everybody's
That's the one
bored.
thing.
Everybody's bored now, and they're like, you know what? So and so sexually harassed me. So.
But you know what though? That's the one thing I do like about everybody being bored now, because the truth is coming out about a lot of people
Right.
that people in the industry already knew. There's a lot of shitty DJs out there, a lot of shitty MCs, a lot of shitty promoters. There's a lot of shitty people out there with bad reputations, but they keep getting booked, and people just are silent because they don't want to get blackballed themselves.
Yeah, we're going through this pandemic at the same time as another huge civil rights movement. So it's like it's sparking all these people because they're just at home all the time. So they're seeing all these people coming out and being like, maybe I should say something. I can't leave them hanging in the wind. And
Right.
so you're seeing some of these DJs, and a lot of them who are shitty people being being put out there for their shitty behavior.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many. I mean, as a traveling DJ, I hear all the stories from promoters about who's horrible to work with and all that, and it's like, yeah, well, their personalities like that. Like, we need to stop looking at people as like, oh man, this person's a great DJ, and they go and like smile on videos and stuff like that. But when they shut the door, it's like, yo, they're really assholes in public. They're assholes. Like, what they do, they're creative. They could be the best on the stage, but like, they're assholes. And they're not rock stars. Like, I'm expecting rock stars to be like smashing up hotels. Like, I'm expecting that, but like a lot of like, especially hip hop wise, I'm like, yeah, it's a lot of people are just assholes, dude. They're
Right,
just
right.
assholes. And it's coming out, and more people are seeing it and getting called out for it.
Yeah, yeah. Over the past 4 months during this pandemic, what have you been doing? What have you been working on?
So I released the 145, and then I have the upcoming 45, which just went up for pre-order. I've been doing a lot of writing. I wrote for Disco Patrick's Hot Stuff magazine. I wrote for a German graffiti magazine called Street Love.
Okay.
I haven't done any IG lives, like mixes, but I have been doing, like, I did 2 or 3 like IG live, like interview segments.
Yeah.
Or talking about collecting or whatever. I have my new streaming app, so I've been doing mixes for my streaming app, to keep my name out there, keep content flowing for people who enjoy my music.
Yeah.
And then I started working on the Nostalgia King magazine. So I'm working, it's like my time is I still do the same. I still wake up at 7 a.m., scroll down Instagram, see what's going on in the world, go get breakfast, write, do record reviews for the Nostalgia King site, and then the day starts. So
yeah, the Nostalgia King's website's really cool because you're also talking about other people that put out the same type of records that you do.
Exactly.
You know, and that's really cool to be able to be supportive of other people that are doing, you know, similar things that you're doing.
Right. Well, see, that's the thing. I feel like as far as like new release vinyl, funk, soul, hip hop, jazz, whatever, like there isn't that one outlet that you can just go to and find this information. You know,
Right.
like with the exception of Nostalgia King, Flea Market Funk, Monkey Box, and like there's a couple, but like we need to be together as artists, especially as independent artists. And I always wanted to be that hub where it's like, if you want to know the dopest new releases, this is where you come, right here, Nostalgia
Right.
King. You know, and we need that, and it's not a competition. Like it's
Right,
not
because for those type of records, no one record's gonna be so popular and sell so many records that's gonna blow everybody out of the water and have
exactly. So
Right.
I'm trying to like bring everything to people. I'm trying to just have everything under one umbrella, and this is the place where you go to get all cool culture, art, lifestyle, whatever. You know, and that's important. So, and because of that, people look at me as like the tastemaker, and I don't even like using the word tastemaker, but people look at me as like the go-to of knowing what's cool, you know, for what we do. It's like mad DJs read my site, even if they don't admit it. I know a lot of DJs who check my site and then find out about a release, and then they'll get it, you know, because I said this is a dope record.
And I like that you like just throw records up in the store too. Like you find something, just throw it in there, and
it's a one-stop shop, because at the end of the day, see, there's a lot of like, if you're a brand, and every DJ, artist, whatever is a brand. If you're a brand, then you should have a site that represents your brand, you know, and that should be everything from photos of your shows to stories to like store or whatever, because you should have merch. Like there should be more to you than just you being just the DJ or the MC or the artist.
Right.
You know, so yeah, having a brand and having a location, a central location, that's important, you know.
When it comes to like the non-music stuff, you know, you're into comic books, and what's really on your mind these days? You know, what are you really feeling? What are you like what are you being obsessed with? Whether it's new stuff or old stuff, you know.
Man, I'm obsessed about everything, all 24/7. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm still like I still collect vintage toys, old school toys and stuff like that. I'm not really obsessed with one particular thing. It's just I see something that's dope, and I'm like, oh man, I need to dive into that, because it's the same thing if I was a kid. Like, if you were a kid and you got your first like basketball cards or baseball cards, then you're heavy and you're like, I need to dive into that again.
Right,
you know?
like these days, I've been like slowly putting my music collection on Discogs, so you just like go through like memory lane when you're doing that. And I started doing my cassette tapes, and that really took me back, you know. So now I'm like on this thing of thinking about, all right, what hip hop artists do I like, and do they have early tapes before they got signed and stuff, you know? And can I find them, or can I at least just like listen to them on YouTube, you know?
Right.
Like the big one right now is 3 6 Mafia. I'm like on this like old 3 6 Mafia kick right now.
And I'm sure they've got stuff that was never released, or
dude, there's a tons of like mixtapes and shit like that DJ Paul did and everything, and I'm like, holy shit.
Like my homie Flash G Parks from Houston, he's another guy, and that's actually who you should talk to.
Okay.
He's like the Houston like connoisseur of just like hip hop, funk, soul, art. Like he's that guy, and like he's still looking for tapes from like Houston artists, like 80s.
Yeah.
He's like, I've heard about this, but I've never seen it. And like I went and found the family to see if they got tapes in the basement. Like he's that guy.
Yeah, okay.
You know, and that's what you want, man. Like any portal of discovering something always leads down this rabbit hole.
Wait, while I think about it, since you're from Philly, this is a question I need to know. Before he got signed, did Beanie Siegel ever have any local shit?
I never remember Beanie Siegel having anything local. Never.
See, I don't see any shred of evidence for that, you know, online. No. So,
was he rapping? Yes, he was rapping, but I've never seen any tapes or local tapes or like just mixed tapes prior to him blowing. Nope, never seen it. Never seen it.
All right, That one I just had to ask because that was another one I asked the other day on Twitter. No one said anything, and I was like,
Yeah.
I've been wanting to say that. I've been wanting to ask somebody that question for the longest time.
Yeah,
Because all
but
of a
see,
sudden he
'cause
just
here's the
appeared,
thing. Here's the thing. It's like places like with like 3 6 Mafia or like like certain areas of Texas, like that was heavy mixtape culture,
Oh yeah, yeah.
you know, versus like East Coast mixtape culture was DJing, and he was doing things, and you might have had a freestyle on there,
Yeah.
but like other places was like, yo, y'all actually doing songs and putting out mixtapes.
Yeah, they would just do like the whole
Album.
mixtape would be an album,
Yes.
like for real. But then it would be a mixtape.
Yeah. See, that wasn't East Coast culture,
Yeah.
you know,
Down
because
south they have a ton of that shit. Like,
right. For that, it would have been like you just did a tape, and somehow that tape got let out from somebody of your album that's coming up or whatever songs. But yeah, like that's definitely like a down south, a Houston, like that's definitely that different thing over there.
when it comes to just all these other things that you like to like go down the rabbit hole for, where do you go for that? Is it sort of like the same mentality as digging records?
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's a lot of conversation with fellow collectors and other people that's just into things, and like one thing leads to the next. Like I'm heavy into film, but film also leads like I'm into film and I'm into soundtracks, right? So if I'm into film, I'm into soundtracks. I'm all about both of them. So I've seen a movie, I've collected the soundtrack, but in doing so, then now I meet legit film guys, like that are like film historians, and then they put me up on other things, and I'm like, okay, I never heard that movie. Now I need to dig for that soundtrack because that connects the dots to everything, and that's just like another thing. And it's like, okay, now I have the movie, I have the soundtrack. Now I need to buy the movie poster. It was from 1973. I need to get that movie poster. So it's everything leads to something else, and when when it crosses genres, where if you collect one, like I said, I collect soundtracks, but I'm also a film guy. This film guy, who's a heavy film guy, is going to put me into something that's going to lead me into that actor, and now I have to go get everything from that actor. It's a rabbit hole of just discovery.
Right. I'm a big wrestling fan, but I really love Japanese wrestling. So
Yeah.
that got me into wanting to look into other things Japanese. So I'm like, if I ever see any like Japanese hip hop or hardcore or punk
Yep.
or metal, I'll give it a listen before anything else.
Exactly, and that's the thing. Like with the Japanese, that's why I love the Japanese so much. Is because when they're into something, they go all out and do it right.
Right.
That's always the like opening gateway drug is that right there. Like you said, like you're into wrestling, and then Japanese wrestling, and then oh man, what goes along with the Japanese wrestling? The music. So now you got the punk bands, the metal
Right.
bands, because punk and metal and all that is so big in Japan. Like
Right.
it's so big in Japan. So that's the opening to everything. It's the same thing how I grew up watching Kung Fu on TV and going to the theaters, right? Same way with Wu-Tang, with RZA,
Right.
same thing. People didn't know about the killer. They didn't know about the killer until, Meth said, "Yo, where's my killer tape?" Like no one, no people weren't. If you weren't like the guy who was into kung fu flicks and Hong Kong cinema, you wasn't up on John Woo. You wasn't up on those films,
Right.
right? I was always up on those films because that's just what I'm into. But that was people's introduction
See,
into Hong Kong cinema, into kung fu, into
Yeah. And see, that
So-
was what was so cool about like hip hop, especially from the '80s and the '90s. There's so many references to movies and comic books and literature and to just great black figures, and that you could have a whole history lesson, like if you're just really listening to like,
Exactly.
he just named somebody. Who is that? Boom, and like that's what was so great about the culture is just you could go down all these rabbit holes.
Right. And that's the thing. Nobody like this era. We don't do that in this generation now. There's no like, let me quote a comic book line or let me quote a TV line and then have people bugging and be like, yo, where did that come from? And then go back. I mean, because look at MC Shan's what song was it? It was Marley and MC Shan Duck Alert
Yeah.
when they was dissing Red Alert, right? So it started out with I'm speaking to you from the bridge because the bridge was, was Shan was from. So it was like, yo, I'm speaking to you from the bridge. But when I'm a Star Trek fan, so me knowing that, I'm like, they sampled that from that Star Trek episode where Spock is like, I'm speaking to you from the bridge.
Right.
But most people wouldn't know where that sample came from. But fast forward and somebody goes, okay, let me go to samplefind.com. And it's like, where did this sample come from? And then it's like, oh, it came from the 1967 episode of Star Trek.
Right.
Like that's the thing. We're not doing that now. There's no sample or there's no like sound bite and somebody's like, yo, what is that? And then
right.
That doesn't happen like that.
Yeah, and like even back in the days, you'd open up the covers, you would see, you're like wondering who's all those features, wondering where all those samples came from, that even the ones that were listed, and then you go down those rabbit holes, and like there was so much education that you could get from like rap music that in hip hop that it was crazy.
Exactly, and that's what I love that because like right now everybody's living in the same exact moment. But back then, it was like, okay, here's Marley. Marley's sampling this Star Trek episode from 1967. Like, he's going back into time to pull something out fresh. Because he obviously must have saw that episode as a kid or something, And he's just using it today, which, translates and brings up forward. It's the same way when Diamond D used, what was it for? He used the sample from Hawaii 5-0. Right? Before I even had that soundtrack and I heard it in his song, I was like, yo, that was on Hawaii 5-0. And it made me go back to my VHS collection and find the episode that came from. And I was like, there's the episode right there. And then I went out and bought the soundtrack.
Right.
So it's that thing that makes you go and discover things. And that's what I miss about this. Like, nothing's inspiring me to the point now where it's like, I need to go dig because someone said something new today. Because we're all singing at the same time.
And it was funny that like back then you could tell like hip hop artists and real hip hop fans that would, catch those things and wondering those things. We were all like the nerds because at the same time, all of that stuff would get you made fun of too.
Exactly.
Especially in the the black communities, and then later on you realize all your other friends like that same shit and just kept it from you.
That's the thing. That's what I loved about like growing up, how I grew up. I was always nerdy. I was always into like I was fresh. I had the fresh sneakers. I had the name belt. I was fresh. But I like Star Trek. I read comic books. I went to karate class on Saturday afternoon. I got my first computer in 1983, which was a Commodore VIC-20 and then a Commodore 64.
Yeah.
Like, I went to computer class on Saturday afternoons. Like, I was always nerdy. I watched Godzilla films on Saturdays. It was always, and that's that special thing, like me and there's other people that are like that, was just like, we're just nerdy about things, and we love that. And most people wouldn't be able to understand it.
Yeah, because there's always the sort of like myth or stereotype that whatever it is about black kids and black men and everything, that they're not going to be nerdy like that or
everybody
or educated and stuff.
The thing was, like, by the time I got to like junior high school or whatever, like I was still nerdy, I was still DJing, I was still nice with the DJing, but it was like I hung out with the nerdy kids, right? I hung out with the cool kids.
Yeah.
I hung out with the dudes that was definitely selling drugs and robbing people. Right? I just hung out with everybody, and being the DJ, you always got the pass. You know what I'm saying? Like even coming up, if I went to another neighborhood to go see a girl and they knew I was a DJ, it was like, oh yeah, don't fuck with him. He's cool. He's the DJ dude.
Right.
He's cool. He's not down here causing no trouble. He's the DJ dude. So I've always had that pass, and being in junior high school, like whatever neighborhood, it's like, he's the DJ dude. Like, yeah, he hangs with these people, he hangs with those people, and he don't get involved in no bullshit. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't get involved. I'm cool with everybody, and that's what works for me.
Yeah, earlier we were talking about like the effects of the current, civil rights movement with Black Lives Matter. And another thing with this sort of layoff in DJ culture is that there's a movement going on to really show some acceptance to the black DJs of the culture, whether it's from hip hop, funk, soul, especially in dance music, especially in drum and bass and stuff like that, where a lot of these, a lot of these cultures got really whitewashed over the years.
Yeah.
And the pioneers are, not getting support, not even getting love, not getting even booked for stuff,
Yeah.
And so talk about, like, your thoughts about all of that.
So, like, even if, like, I was DJing before all these people in Philly. All this 90s generation, 2000, I've been there. I've done that. But, like, I noticed once all of the cool lounges and all the cool little clubs starts popping up, there was an influx of, like, white DJs, And because they were white playing black music, club owners and venue owners and bar owners are white. They're just mingling together and getting in. And you got the pass because your uncle owned something, or somebody was a friend of somebody, your girlfriend slept with somebody and got you a hookup or something. So I'm seeing, like, all these white DJs getting all of the club gigs, and black DJs who were here doing this, not getting it, and it sucks, which was the defining moment for me to be like, okay, you know what? Y'all want to be the kings of the city? I'm about to be the king of the world. Right. Y'all go ahead and be all city. I'm about to be all world.
I'll get these passport stamps, and you can
passport stamps.
You can get a stamp on your
on your yeah, exactly. You get a stamp to keep coming in and out of the bar,
right?
And so that was a defining moment, and seeing that, like, it really annoyed me because I'm like, yo, how come all these white DJs are getting booked to play black music that's our music?
Yeah,
and your audience is primarily black in a lot of situations, and even if it is white, it's like, yo, it's primarily black. Y'all coming there, y'all playing the most ratchet ghetto shit, that your parents would not have accepted in your home, but you're getting a check. So that actually pushed me to be like, I'm about to go rock the world, and that was important for me. That was a defining factor, and it sucks, and it's still like that. Philly's still like that.
And when it comes to a lot of those DJs, I'm white too, but, like, my reputation that I've gotten in the Detroit hip hop scene has been out of respect,
Right.
So it's been out of respect, So I don't worry about any of that stuff, because I've always had respect for the culture, and everybody respects me because of that. But a lot of those, those white DJs that you talk about, there's always that sort of, voyeurist sort of things that they kind of engage in, where they want to engage in black culture, but not be a black person.
Right. I mean, I look at white DJs now, and I'm like, okay, you're playing the most ratchet ghetto rap shit, right?
Yeah.
And you're it's screaming nigga this, bitch that, like, it's you know what I'm saying, like, and, like, I'm looking at your audience, and your audience is probably primarily white in the club, right? And they're all singing along to these songs, and I remember when the whole, like, thing jumped off with George Floyd and like all of these killings, I went on Twitter and I was like, yo, so how many DJs now, how many of y'all still playing these songs and singing, nigga this, and, like, how many of y'all still doing that, and the funny thing is, I didn't see any white DJ respond in reference to that, to be like, admitting, like, yo, yeah, maybe we shouldn't do this, like, we're part of the problem,
right?
In doing this, you know what I'm saying? Like, because that's a part of the problem. Like, I never play that music. I never, ever. And I can play the most ratchet ghetto music with the best of them. I just choose not to. Right. And I don't have to make my career playing that music.
Right. It's fun playing some of those records. Some of them are a bit cringeworthy at this time, now that we look back. Right. And you're like, oh. But we know that a lot of those records set a tone for the music industry. And what can eventually go on, it's like having, it's like with this, even with this coronavirus right now, we don't know the lasting effects of it. We don't know a lot of things about it. Back in the day when we had these songs, we didn't know the lasting effects of them. We just, like, they were fun, and everything. But then we realized it was setting a tone for a lot of sexual abuse within the music industry.
Yep, exactly. And the thing is, it's like, it's so glorified now. like being ignorant is so glorified.
Right.
Visually in videos, like it's just glorified. Like if I want to watch porn, I'll pull out the VHS and go watch porn. Like I don't need to really see it in my rap video. You know, there's it's setting an example of just like how to get money, how to have champagne around you, how to have, like, how many people are really living like that?
Right.
You know?
And like you said, like when everything with the George Floyd stuff popped off, like you asked that question, and you're seeing a lot of silence from a lot of people that's engaged in black culture, even if it is black folks too. You know, like there's a lot of silence, like going, all right, you know it. And then there's the people who've been saying this stuff. Then now they're pointing to those people, and you're like, Kendrick Lamar put out a whole album about this, and now they want to know what he's thinking about.
Yep, exactly. Exactly.
No, go listen to that album. He already said what he.
Which is why, when it comes to media, I don't buy into blogs. I don't buy into like hype beasts. I don't buy into none of that, because I'm like, y'all jump on whatever the current trend or topic is.
Right.
Like the days of journalism is over. Like real journalists that was out in the field when things was going on and covering the moment and being sincere and pure about it. Yeah. That's a thing of the past. Like there's so many great journalists from years past that you know their names, right? I don't know anybody's name who writes these blogs these days.
No, not at all.
Name. Right?
No,
because they haven't come in and set a standard of doing proper journalism. So I know all these old guys' names or all these old women's names. I don't know any of these people writing blogs, getting 15 cents a word to write whatever. You know, so it's sad. Journalism sucks. You know, just being ignorant sucks.
Right. There's a lot of that. So, what do you have planned for the future? I know it's hard to do with, you never know when we're going to get out of this thing, that we're in the middle of. But, how do you sort of plan to maintain?
Well, honestly, so, my streaming app, doing mixes, that keeps me...
What's your streaming app?
It's Nerve FM. It's nerve.fm/Skeme Richards.
Okay.
So... like I'm doing mixes on my streaming app. I do live streams as well. I just mixes and live streams. Because like, why would I go on IG Live when I have my own app and I can just go live on my own app for my fans? I'm still knocking out projects. I've got like 4 cassette tapes dropping between October and like January, February. Yeah. So I'm stacking up releases. Writing for magazines. That's going to take me into mid 2022, 2021 anyway. So I'm keeping ahead of the game, so that when all this is over, it's like, okay, I've got all these projects. Now I can work on bookings to jump on a flight so I can get out of here again.
That's a good plan.
What's important. It's important to just stay ahead of the ball game.
Yeah, I know. Like when this pandemic hit, there's some people, they didn't know what to do. Then there's other people sort of putting it out there it was almost like pressuring people that they, should have a new skill or whatever, blah, blah, blah. How are, and we've kind of already talked about this, but just for anybody listening, how are you able to maintain that to where, like, you're comfortable enough to do something during this time when there's some people that just don't know what to do with themselves, are too mentally tired to do anything, just don't want to do anything during this time? I
mean, I'm an artist, so I have to create. That's just in my blood. I have to create. But I have to stay connected to what's going on socially, politically, around the world, because I have friends around the world that's affected by all these things. So I make sure I stay in tune with everybody, but I don't let it overwhelm me. So you have to stay in tune. But I think the key defining factor is stay off of Facebook. Because I noticed once I slowed down off that Facebook thing and cut all that out, now I feel a lot better. I'm not overwhelmed and drained and mentally drained, from the day to day, because I'm not seeing the ignorant timelines. I'm not seeing like people bitching and complaining and moaning about everything. It's just like, no, I get my news how I get my news. I talk to local people, what's going on in your city. I'm getting like firsthand reports. I don't need to watch Fox and all that I'm talking to people. Like I talk to people every day around the world. How are you doing? And I think that's what's keeping me good. It's like checking in on friends checking in on me.
Yeah.
And we keep a nice circle of like, are you okay? Yeah, I'm okay. Are you okay? Yeah, I'm good. All right. We're good.
That's that brings up another question. And I remember, before social media, the old internet,
Mm-hmm.
I used to trade wrestling tapes with people, but then I'd also trade vinyl with people also.
Yep.
I would keep just a basic list of my vinyl collection, like on a AOL page, like web page, just simple HTML. And I made all these friends around the world, and I could like trade them things, like I could get these Slum Village Japanese pressings from someone straight from Japan, and then send him something that is from Detroit, stuff like that. But like through social media, a lot of that kind of changed because people can they see the worth of a lot of things. They can sell their own things or whatnot. How do you what's your idea of how do you sort of make a relationship with people from other parts of the globe? How do you make those friends when it's maybe kind of harder these days than it was in the message board days,
Yeah, well, it's crazy. So I come from the era you're talking about. I come from that era.
Yeah.
Because before it was the message boards, I was on bulletin boards.
Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah.
So the bulletin board. So I was doing the same thing in the 80s, the trading of games, trading of whatever, and then when the late 80s came around, I was still on I'm trading Kung Fu flicks on VHS tapes with people, across the states. My homie Channing, Paul Nice, DJ Cash Money, Biz Markie, trading VHS tapes. Fast forward a little further, Instagram has connected me to so many people around the world that collect or do certain things.
Yeah.
Where they see what I do and they can instantly feel like, oh yeah, you're pure with this. You're not in this for the money. You're pure with this. And then the amount of people every day that send me records, their new releases or whatever, there's this jazz record I think you'll like from 1977. They just send me stuff, and then vice versa. I'm always sending homies stuff like magazines or books or whatever, so even with the graffiti scene, I'm cool with a lot of OG New York graffiti writers that was bombing, subway trains back in the 70s and the 80s. And Dr. Revolt, who actually made the Yo MTV Raps logo, and made the Wild Style logo. I was at one of his gallery exhibitions some years back. And, I went to go introduce myself, and I was like, yo, we follow each other on social media. And he was like, you're the toy guy. Because he knows I collect vintage toys. And we became cool ever since then, right? So when I wanted a piece done by him, I was like, yo, I got this Tokyo subway map. Can you do a piece on it? He was like, yeah, just send it to me, send a stamped envelope, and I'll send it back to you. Now, this is something he would normally charge for. Right. But he knows I'm a collector, so he's just like, I got you. So I'm still making those friends because it's a pure friendship.
Okay.
Of collectors. It's hard for some people because, like I said, it's that image thing. People just think, oh, yeah, you're the famous DJ, and you've got all of the records, and you've got all these expensive records, and people aren't going to send things to those people. Or it's because they're famous, you're scared to approach them. Because Instagram made all of the famous people approachable. When they were all assholes at the clubs, now they want to be on social media interacting. Right? And I've never played that star role. I've never played that I go to the club, I rock a set, and I hang out with the people. When the promoter's like, yo, here's the VIP area. No, I'm cool. I'm going out on the floor and feel the energy of the room. Right. And then people can approach me and be like, yo, aren't you Skeme Richards? I'm looking forward to hearing your set tonight. So I'm always a very personable person.
Oh, yeah.
So still.
Right. Because, before the social media days, I don't know if you remember, I did a website a long time ago called Renaissance Soul. I don't know if you remember it. That was me that did that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was a Dilla website, Detroit hip hop website. I'm actually bringing it back as a podcast,
Nice.
And I met so many people around the world that were like Detroit hip hop fans, Dilla fans, and everything that I could they would send me stuff that would or we would trade like Zoom Attack would like send me all their records that would have any sort of Detroit connection to it,
Nice.
or I would trade records with someone in Japan or whatever,
Yep.
I used to send a box. I did this a couple times where I sent a box of just Detroit hip hop stuff to Benji B at
ABV.
yeah. No, Benji B from
Benji B, yeah, Benji B, yeah.
from BBC Radio back when he was
Yeah.
doing Deviation, and he
Yeah.
played a few joints that I sent him. Like this is like this isn't sending digital. I'm sending a box of records and CDs and tapes to like the BBC office,
But see, it's that personal thing of like I still believe in getting mail. Like I still will write a postcard. Like like when people order like records from me off the Nostalgia King site, I'm still writing a handwritten postcard and throwing it in, thanking people. You
Right.
know,
I love that when people do that. If I buy a record and there's a handwritten note or whatever, like
Exactly.
I love that.
Yeah, when labels send me stuff and they write a personal like, "Hey Skeme, thank you for everything you've done over the years." Like I love that. Like I keep all that stuff.
Right? Yeah, I'll just throw it in the record sleeve and I just feel like I'm
So that's important. So I'm still building those relationships, man. Like because people see it, I'm still trading with people around the world, like physical media,
Right.
tapes, records, VHS, whatever. I'm still doing it because there's still a bunch of people that are like, "Yo, I want the physical media, not the MP3."
Yeah, and I'm trying to do that more in like on my Instagram, my personal Instagram. I've been cataloging my music collection. I've been taking pictures of certain things that maybe you don't see too often, or I have a story to tell behind it.
Right.
And it's just like, and you get a lot of that with like cassette tapes and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm having a lot more fun with that, so I'm going to continue doing that. And it tells a story of, like, my life, too,
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy because a few years ago, I started doing this, like, direct-to-cassette mix series where I would just pull a bunch of records and I would just knock out a 60-minute tape and I would just run 50 of them off.
Yeah.
And then I would just send them to homies or send them to whoever. I would just throw, like, 10 of them and be like, "Yo, these are for sale." And it's just 50 and it was a Saturday afternoon. I just played some records, and it was like, boom. That's personal. That's like, I would want that more than I would want a regular release.
Yeah.
Because it's just something that, he took the time just to sit down and, like, he's just mailing stuff around that. Like, that's dope.
Yo, funny, I used to do something similar to that when I was in 10th grade. Before I had turntables or anything, I just had a boombox, dual cassettes, and I used to make tapes for people in high school. Of joints that like I had that I think they would like, because I had this vast tape collection. I had a reputation of being the hip hop kid, in high school. So
Right.
I would make them these tapes,
Yeah. So like, that was it, man. Like that's what you were doing. What you were supposed to do.
Right.
The music was there. The music was right there. You were making these tapes for people. Boombox, doing it the difficult way, the same way with us. Like we're doing pause tapes.
Yeah.
Like, that was important.
Yeah, I was doing the same thing, and it was just like, and I had so much fun doing it, and I had like, okay, this is going to be a West Coast tape, and this is going to be an East Coast tape and stuff like that. So like, those personal things, are so important.
It's crazy. I think one of the things that kind of made an impression with me, I had a homie who lived in Kentucky, right? This was 80, I don't know, 87, 80, whatever. He's the one who actually put me up on NWA. Like Eazy-E. Like, He put me up on Eazy-E, like, early. Like, a dude from Kentucky, who I met on a message board, put me up on NWA. Or put me up on Eazy-E.
Right.
Which is crazy. So this is like pre-videos. This is like, yo, he just sent me this tape. And I was like, what the hell is this shit? Like, because it was West Coast, and it was like, I wasn't, like, up on it. And then some time passed, and it was like, oh, this dude's about to blow up. Or like, his circle.
And that's how it was back in the day for Detroit artists, because people's families in Michigan, especially Detroit, came from the South. So they still had people who lived in the South. So there'd be like tape trading between Detroit and the South. So you had all these like Detroit artists that were known like in Atlanta or Memphis or you know Alabama or something, like, but they might not be known anywhere else, you know.
Yep, exactly. And that was what's dope about it. Like I had cousins that lived in like South Carolina, and I would go down there summer times as a kid, and I would like 80s, like I would take tapes, and they'd be like, "Yo, what's the new thing up north? What's like, you know what I'm saying?" Like I missed that era of things being regional first, and then trickling out. You know, now we all get everything at the same time. It's not fun. Like you want to be up on something before everybody else is up on something.
You want to get that little dirty looking tape that a cheap ass dirty looking tape that was Xeroxed and stuff like that, man.
Exactly. Like even with like Funk Night Records in Detroit, you know, like Funk Night Records, like I get all of the test pressings and promos months before anyone else gets it.
Right.
So I'm already playing it on radio shows. I'm already playing on my streaming app. I'm already traveling and touring and playing it first around the world before it even gets pressed up and anybody plays. That's a great feeling. Right.
Yeah, no, because Frank understands that, you know, that.
Exactly.
Like,
like I just did a Tokyo radio show last Sunday, and for like FM radio, like, and I played an hour-long mix of probably, I'd say 60% of stuff unreleased from labels across the globe. First time getting played anywhere, first time on the radio.
Yeah, and see, that doesn't happen anymore because even like in mixtape culture, like in like New York, like they would always get the stuff early, and you DJ Clue, yep. You know, and it would be some exclusive.
Yep.
No Royce the 599 stuff like that, and it would be like, oh shit, you know, and then like. But we don't even get that now because we all get it at the same time, you know?
We all get it at the same time. So, like, you know, when I get stuff, I'm just like, I Instagram and I'm like, got it. You know, nobody else got it, but I got it like months in advance. And that's still a good feeling because it shows that, like, labels trust you and they want to make sure that you get the product first because they know you're going to blast it out to the world. You know?
Right.
So, like, I miss that. Like, getting everything at the same time is not fun. You know, it's not the same. It's just like, okay, we all heard it at the same time. You know, no one's running to the DJ booth to be like, yo, what's that? What did you just play? Because we all heard it at the same time. We all know it.
Right. I miss that too, man, because it was like, I just missed that too because there was that time just like, it was before, I think it was around that time when you started getting like the free albums, you know, when that started coming out online. And I was, like, getting all these things, and I started DJing them, and people were like, yo, what's that? Like, I remember one time when, like, whatever that first Frank Ocean, like, mixtape was, I played, like, half of that shit, and people kept on coming up to me, like, yo, what's that, you know? Before anybody, like, really cared about it online, even. And I was like, yo, like, that's this dude Frank Ocean, man. But that's like probably the last time we've had shit like that, you know?
Yeah, it doesn't happen anymore, man, because the blogs are writing about it real quick. Everybody's getting the exclusive at the same time.
Right. There was even a time when the blogs were like getting ahead of the curve about things.
Yeah.
And you would like be able to, as a DJ also, be able to run with it, you know?
Yeah.
But now it's just like, it goes from 0 to 100, like,
right
that,
away.
You know?
Right away.
And, like, whatever the blogs are talking about is somebody that's already been set up, you know, and put on, you know?
And that's the other thing I don't like about these blogs, because these blogs aren't telling you about anything new. They're telling you about the artists who are already, like, known and, like, this is the new thing.
They're already set up in some way, you know?
Like, a good music site is supposed to tell you about the things you don't know about or the things that's upcoming from somebody new. You know, if I scroll down Hypebeast, every day it's the same people. Kanye, little whoever, young whoever, you know, Louis Vuitton, this, you know, it's the same thing over and over. And it's just like, okay, but so what are you saying? There's nobody else out there making art?
Yeah, I want to hear somebody that's putting out an album and they don't have a publicist.
Exactly. That's the thing. I want one of their writers to discover something on their own.
Right. And there's stuff out there, you know. It's and I come across it every once in a while. But we're at this sort of mind state where a lot of people don't care unless there's
Right. Right.
some like buzz or cosign to it, you know?
Yeah, see that's whack. The whole cosign thing, man. Is it dope or is it not dope? That's all I care about. I don't care about your cosigns. Like, it's pointless. You know, like for me, a lot of people who were unknown got known because of me. Whether it was because I wrote about it,
Yeah.
you did release, or whether it's because I'm in another country and I'm taking a picture with somebody and people are like, "Yo, who's that?" And then later on, it's like, "Oh shit, that's the dude from so and so." We didn't know who he was, but now we see him on Instagram all the time. Yeah, exactly. Because I hang with locals. Like, I don't. You'll never see me hanging with the famous people.
Right.
I hang with the locals. You know, like when I go places, I'm with the locals. I don't do the whole like let me hang out with the famous cats. This no, I'm hanging with the locals because the locals is going to give you all of the good food spots,
Yeah.
the big spots, the digging spots. You know, they're going to give you the best spots.
Right.
The famous dudes in those cities, it's just the famous dudes in those cities. Like, and there are famous cats that are local that are still like grounded and get it and welcoming. But then you got the famous cats that's like, yo, they don't come out the house.
Right.
They're not traveling. They're home. They're not coming out and hanging out.
Yeah, they're so busy or traveling that they don't know how the city has changed.
Exactly. So I'm always trying to be connected to everything.
Right. All right, it's been good talking with you, man. So many great stories. Like, you know, like always, sometimes I like to end the interviews by asking a question, and that is, and you already mentioned someone, like, but who's somebody that you could recommend that I would have on this podcast that would have some good stories and lessons to talk about?
Yo, so my man Flash G Parks in Houston, right?
Yeah.
He's the guy.
Man, I love that sort of rap, so I'm already excited.
Yeah, so for Houston culture,
Yeah.
he's the guy. Like, he did a Houston DJ documentary called This Thing of Ours. And it just basically did because I never even gave any thought to, like, the history of Houston DJ culture.
Right.
Like, I think East Coast DJ culture, West Coast, but I never really thought about Houston DJ culture. I mean, it's there. Every city has its DJ culture, but he actually went out and did a documentary called This Thing of Ours, right? Which connected the dots, DJ culture, right? So that's one. He also, he's like the guy for art, like knowing like the ill black artist that's making really a lot of noise in the gallery scenes.
Yeah.
Like, he's the guy that knows those guys, right? He's done a few documentaries. He's done a few like panel discussions with like Archie Bell, you know, and stuff like that. Like he's the guy. He's the cultural ambassador of Houston when it comes to just like the hip hop and like those old tapes, the tapes that we were talking about. Like,
right.
I need to find this tape that was never like. He's that guy. So Flash G Parks, and the crazy thing is, where he got his name from was from Flash Gordon Parks, the photographer, cinematographer who did Shaft.
Okay.
You know, so he's that guy. He's the cultural dude. So he's got stories. He's got that Houston thing locked down. So
Perfect.
That's the guy you need to speak with.
Perfect. All right, man. It's been good, Skeme. Like, it's been great talking with you. Before we get out of here, you know, where can people get more information about you and everything that you're doing? Plug anything that you want to plug.
So the easiest way is nostalgiaking.com. And there it'll translate you to my Instagram, which is @SkemeRichards. I do all record reviews, you know, cultural reviews, book reviews, whatever, just cool shit in general. So that's the easiest place, but my nerve.fm/SkemeRichards, that's my app. You can download that. I do record of the day picks, which is like I recommend a record every day that you should be into.
Yeah.
I do like mixes, all styles and genres of mixes. I live stream from there. So that's the easiest and best places to get with me, man. NostalgiaKing.com, nerve.fm/SkemeRichards, and Instagram @SkemeRichards.
Yo, perfect, man. Thanks for being on the show, man. It's been great talking with you.
Thank you for having me, man. This was a pleasure. It's crazy because, like, I made sure during the pandemic that I didn't spread myself thin and do every opportunity that came about.
Right.
You know, and I wanted to be selective and pick and choose.
Oh, thank
and
you.
give good content. So like this is I love this. This was perfect.
Thank you for listening to the Fresh of the Word podcast, hosted and produced by myself, Kelly K. Fresh Frazier, empowered by Anchor at anchor.fm/Fresh of the Word. Fresh of the Word theme music provided by Steve O. You can find more of his productions at iamsteveo.bandcamp.com, and that's EYEAMSTEVEO.bandcamp.com. Fresh of the Word is available on all major streaming platforms. Please rate and review on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher. If you want to support Fresh of the Word, please consider pledging via Patreon at patreon.com/freshoftheword. Follow Fresh of the Word on social media on Twitter at Fresh of the Pod, on Instagram at Fresh of the Word Podcast, and join the Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/Fresh of the Word. For more information about Fresh of the Word and our other podcasts, Breaking Records and Renaissance Soul, and a collection of pop culture articles and reviews, please visit freshofthepodcast.com. Thank you for listening and your support. Goodbye and good night.
Fresh is the word.